Hello, everyone, and welcome to Between the Leaves, which is a new hangout we have here at Ancestry.com. Today, I'm joined by Crista Cowan, who you probably know as the Barefoot Genealogist, Amy Johnson-Crow, and Juliana Szucs Smith, and I'm Ann Gillespie Mitchell. Today, we want to talk about a couple things: conferences and our favorite offline resources. Let's start with conferences. Crista, what are your favorite memories about genealogy conferences you've been to, or just something that stands out to you as making it worthwhile to go to?
So one of my favorite conferences is actually the Southern California Genealogy Jamboree. It's held the same weekend in June in the same hotel and convention center, and it's an opportunity to network with genealogists, but it's also a little bit like a homecoming because a lot of the same people attend every year, and we get to talk about family history with people who get it, because we all know our families don't always get it.
Too true.
Ladies, over there in the Family History Library, they're coming to us from a special location today.
Yes, we are. And that's,
I love that Amy's whispering because she's in a library.
We're in a library. We're in a classroom, but we're trying not to disturb people, so forgive us if we're a little bit quiet. It's very unlike us to be quiet, so This is hard for us. Talking about conferences, I mean, I can't think of any conference or any time that a group of genealogists gets together and it's not good. I mean, you always have a good time when you're with other genealogists. One of my, thinking back to my very first conference, which was the state conference for the Ohio Genealogical Society, and this was more years ago than I really care to admit to, and that very first conference, I felt so welcomed. I hadn't met any of these people. I was there all by myself, all by my lonesome. But by the time I left that conference 2 days later, I had met some of the best people, and some of them remain some of my closest friends to this day. So, yeah, I mean, it's anytime you can go and get around a group of genealogists, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think my first conference was FGS in Fort Wayne. And great thing about conferences is a lot of times they're located conveniently near wonderful research repositories.
Exactly.
And I think the first time I met you was at a conference.
It was. It was.
Mm-hmm. Many, many years. I'm not going to tell you how many years. No. It was a lot.
We're not admitting to it.
And what about you?
The one that stands out to me the most, and they all stand out. I've been going to them now for 6 years. But when I first joined Ancestry 6 years ago, I had been with the company 3 weeks, and I was told I was going to NGS. I think it was NGS in Philadelphia. And I was like, okay, that sounds like something I'm really ready for. But, you go. And I was working the booth, and I was helping this one lady find some records. And I can't remember exactly what we found, but to her, it just opened up this whole world, right? Suddenly, she had seen pieces of her family she had never seen. She was in tears. She hugged me. I was in tears. The guy across the way was in tears. And I'm just sitting there going, this is a different job. This is a job like nothing I've ever had, right? Because you meet people, you get to inspire and reach out and touch. And I think that's one of the great things about going to conferences. I mean, of course, you're learning a lot of things, and you're meeting so many people, and customers of ours and other genealogists who, like Crista said, want to talk about what we're doing. But it's just those little moments where you get to actually see the effect Ancestry has on people, and just the effect that family history has on people. And for me, that was just, I will carry that with me always.
I think I remember your first conference, Ann.
Did I look like a deer in the headlights?
No.
Everybody has the deer in the headlights look at their first conference. That's just how it works.
Yeah, we've talked. There are some people who might not be familiar with conferences in our audience, so we've talked a little bit about how it's a good networking opportunity, and you get to meet people and you get to help people. And you mentioned briefly the exhibit hall. Most conferences have some kind of an exhibit hall where vendors go, and but then there's also actually classes at the conferences. Are there any favorite topics or classes that you guys like to attend, or favorite speakers you like to hear?
All of them.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing about going to, especially the larger conferences where you have multiple tracks, is that, you know, one, there's always so much to choose from, but honestly, I don't care what class you go to, you can get something out of it, even if it's a topic that you think that you know really, really well. You know, there's always that one little nugget that you can pull out of it and really help your
perspective.
Exactly.
And regardless, always go to classes. You know, you pay to go. That's where you'll meet people. You'll get new perspectives on everything.
The great thing is you meet people with similar interests too, because they're all researching the same types of things that relate to that class.
Right, and also the vendors at the exhibit halls do little mini sessions, which I know we do a lot of them, and of course ours are better than anybody else's, but that's also a place to go and learn and, you know, get something new. All right, how many of you, when you go to the conference, you know, the exhibit hall, visit a book vendor?
And how many of you suitcase to take books home?
How many of you have gone to a conference and never purchased a book? I didn't think so. But it's a great, I mean, where else do you get such a wide variety of genealogy books, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I always get sucked in on the maps.
Oh, I know.
Julie mentioned earlier that her first conference was in Fort Wayne. I know some people might not be aware that some of the national conferences actually rotate cities every year, and she mentioned that she loved Fort Wayne because, why, Julie?
Allen County Public Library. Can't beat it. Well, you can't. There's a lot of really good libraries, but I like that one because it's close to my home.
Isn't it the largest public genealogy library in the United States?
It is. It's the largest collection in a public library in the U.S.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It is.
If you ever get a chance to get out there, highly recommend it. And really great people that work there. Very helpful.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all awesome. And then, of course, Roots Tech is usually in February, which is in Salt Lake City, and this year it's going to be there in conjunction with FGS, which of course is wonderful because you're right near the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. It's just a short walk away. Oh, it's going to be an amazing conference. So many people, start booking your hotel now. But, you know, while the nationals, because SoCal, which Crista talked about, there's NGS and FGS, but there's also a lot of regional conferences that are worth checking out. There's usually one in New York every year. There's a lot in the South. And then we also do Ancestry Days, which are just one day where you get to hear speakers from Ancestry and other places talk. So there's all sorts of opportunities to come and be inspired and to find, you know, new people. So what other good conference memories do you all have? You must have some.
I remember meeting you at the first time I think we worked a conference together was in Little Rock, wasn't it? Arkansas?
Yes, we stayed at the Peabody Hotel, which had the ducks in it. Do you remember that?
The ducks.
That was a lot of fun, and we had some really good food that year.
That's the other great thing about conferences, excuse me, is going out and just seeing those sites that you may not necessarily see. And for me, I love going out and eating. So, you know, I kind of make it a rule when I go to conferences is to avoid any restaurant that's a chain, you know, because I really want to get something that is going to be local, you know, to that area.
Local cuisine,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice because you get to go out with groups of genealogists and everybody's just, you know, the conversation just stays on genealogy.
And they don't think you're weird.
Yeah. They don't shake their head and roll their eyes.
No.
They want to talk about genealogy. It's always so much fun just to have conversations where people get excited. Oh, I just found this document, and everybody's all excited. So what do you guys do to get ready before you go to a conference? How do you get the most out of a conference?
Well, if you're planning on doing research, I think the first thing you want to do is make sure you got your research in order.
Right.
Make some plans, check out the library's card catalog before you go, look and see what they have available that's going to pertain to your research, and make sure that that information, that the records you're going to check are not already available online. So you don't want to spend precious time in a repository doing something you could be doing home in your jammies.
And maybe even to back up a step a little bit, make sure you plan some extra days for going to the library. I think a lot of times, especially people who are new to conferences, don't recognize that that conference can take up almost all of your time, and you're paying to be there and to learn and to network. And you know, if you find yourself exhausted at 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and then the library, they'll sometimes leave the local libraries open late, but if you're too tired to spend your time there, make sure that you scheduled a day ahead or a day after the conference to be able to really take full advantage of the records in the libraries that are local to these events.
Yeah. Yeah, Amy mentioned packing an extra bag to bring home books and things like that, leaving it like a bat that can be flattened in your suitcase. Then you can just check your extra bag when you get back to the airport.
Also, UPS shows up at a lot of conferences and will send things home media rate, which is something I may have done once or twice.
Really? Yeah, surprising.
Virginia was very bad for my pocketbook. The one at NGS in Richmond was not good for my pocketbook. So, and I talk about just the different levels of classes that you can find. If you're a very first-time genealogist and you've just gotten into it, what would you guys recommend that people do? What kind of classes should they look for, and what kind of experiences should they look for?
Well, one of the benefits of most of these conferences is that they publish some kind of a program or a syllabus ahead of time. Some of the events even now have apps that you can download to your phone. So spend some time with that schedule ahead of time, and you're going to usually be able to tell. Most of the classes are billed beginner, intermediate, advanced, so that you can plan your schedule ahead of time and make sure that the classes you're attending fit your skill level and your interest and your research interests.
Yeah, and I would say to that, even if a class is marked as intermediate or advanced and you don't think you're ready for it, go to it anyway. If it's a topic that you're really interested in, that you're really passionate about, go to the class anyway. You're going to absorb things, and it's still going to be worth your while, even if you think that it's beyond you.
Yeah, and if there's something you don't understand, you can always go back and fill in that knowledge. Do some research online. There's a lot of great resources online that you can go in and kind of fill in those gaps, and it's really good to challenge yourself in that way. I agree.
Yeah, definitely. You never know what you're going to learn. Just little bits and pieces may help you break through that brick wall, or may give you just a different way of looking at something. So
yeah, and looking at record types that maybe you haven't explored yet. Look at the research you've done, and what are some record types that maybe you perhaps haven't used, and see if you can learn more about them and how they may apply to your research.
All right. So, any other conference thoughts before we dig into offline repositories?
Well, I would say for anyone who is getting ready to go to a conference, my 2 tips: pack comfortable shoes.
Yes.
Yes.
And dress in layers.
Yes.
Because it will never fail that the first session you go to will be freezing, and the next session you go to will just be roasting. So dress in layers. Be comfortable.
Absolutely, and stay hydrated. You can never drink enough water for some reason when you're at conferences.
Yeah, and also bring. I like to bring a small notepad so I can take notes. I know I could take them on my phone or my iPad, but for some reason, paper and pencil seems to work best for me.
Yeah, and a lot of conferences you can download the syllabus on your iPad. So if that's what you want to do, make sure that you get that set up ahead of time. I always bring my iPad to take notes on, but I always have paper and pencil as backup just in case something goes wrong.
Oh, and one other tip: a lot of times the conferences will have an app you can keep track of the classes that you want to attend. So check online, see if they have an app for your smartphone. You may be able to download it and help kind of organize your trip.
Yes, the more organized you are, the more you'll get out of it. But go and have fun, smile at people. You'd be amazed at what a difference that makes. Say hello to new people. Not everybody wants to be your new friend, but you will make new friends there. I know I always do. It's a lot of fun. All right. So when you're at a conference, I think as Crista mentioned, they're usually around, the big libraries or little libraries that are really good repositories, really good information and info. And Amy and Juliana are at one of my favorites, the Family History Library in Salt Lake City. Yay. Ladies, what do you do when you're there?
Everything.
Anything we can. We did try to go over our research before we came and look and see where we want to focus. And again, we checked the card catalog to see what records. I've already written down the film numbers that I want to grab, and I've written down there's a couple books and some maps I wanted to access here. So I've already got kind of a game plan because we've got a limited window of time. We've got about 3 hours before we have to go catch a flight home. So being able to plan and have all those things saves us time. We don't have to keep going to the catalog to look up new things. We've got a game plan. We're ready to roll.
Yeah, and we're going to be looking at resources that aren't available online, so we're really trying to maximize our time here.
Right. Be prepared.
Be prepared.
Boy Scouts, it works for genealogists.
Exactly.
So what are other favorite places that you like to go that are not online?
So one of my favorite things to do is anytime I'm traveling, whether it's for work or for vacation, which my family loves, I always try to find the local library and look at their local history section. I've got ancestors across the country. My family is a typical story of westward migration with stops all along the way, and so pretty much just about anywhere I find myself, I have had family that's lived there. Last fall I went to Little Egg Harbor, New Jersey, and I stopped in the local library, and it was just this little tiny 2-room library, but they had 4 shelves of local history books. And probably 6 or 7 of those books have been digitized and put online, but that meant that the rest of them had not. And so I spent probably a good 3 hours in that library that afternoon reading through these books, checking indexes, looking for family names, came away with some titles that I was able to then go online and purchase, but there were also a couple of titles that are out of print, and I wouldn't have found anywhere else.
Right. There are a lot of genealogy books out of print, and local libraries and history centers are sometimes the only place you can find them.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was going to say also taking a look at those local historical societies, because they can have just absolute gems, not only of research materials, those manuscripts and diaries and things like that, but artifacts, and you can really get a good flavor for the history of that very specific area. So I love those little local historical societies.
Well, and it's not just the fact that you're at the historical society and looking at things, but those are the people who live there and are probably experts in the history, and you're making a contact, right? Somebody that you can call later or maybe send a letter to or whatever, and that can be invaluable if you need something.
And sometimes if they're from a small enough town, they might even be cousins to you.
When I go to Wythe County, I'm related to everybody there. One way or another, we just have to find it. Absolutely.
Yeah, we went on a trip to New York to the New York Genealogy event, which this year will be October 2nd and 3rd, I believe. And that's a really fun event. I've got a lot of deep New York roots, so that was a really great one for me. And it was kind of funny because a cousin who we've kind of gotten into genealogy picked us up at the airport, and he's like, "Where do you want to go? You want to go get something to eat?" And we're like, "No, Holy Cross Cemetery."
Which is a great offline repository, right?
Straight to the cemetery.
The cool thing is, too, is because we had written away to Holy Cross, and we actually had the record of one of our ancestors, and it gave a list of everyone who was in the plot, when they were interred, and all this information. It was, we thought, wow, we've really gotten it. Because the only thing that was on the headstone was, a little bit of brief information. But when we actually saw the headstone, it said Thomas Howley, USS Fort Jackson, and we were like, hey, what does that mean? He was a fireman on the USS Fort Jackson in the Civil War. I had no idea he was a Civil War veteran until we saw that on the tombstone. Wow. So really good reason to go. Good resource. Even if you've written away for that information, there may be more on the tombstone that you didn't expect.
Exactly.
And his was on there.
When you're at the cemetery, you want to look at all the stones around your ancestor, even if the names don't look familiar. I always like to take a video that shows all the stones in proximity to each other, because I can't remember anything. I'm old and that doesn't work anymore. So If you take a video, it's a little bit different than taking a picture, which I also take as well.
Yeah.
All right.
You can make pictures at a cemetery.
Yes. One of my favorite offline repositories, of course, is a courthouse. And in Virginia, you can just walk into the records room and pull the books off the shelves, whatever is there. I mean, that's heaven.
Yeah.
That is heaven. I mean, just going through the deed books and the chancery records and the court orders, and you can just look to your heart's content. I was in a courthouse one day, and I think I copied 80 pages, which isn't hard in a couple hours, as you guys know. And I went to check out and pay for it. And the lady goes, you know, those are 50 cents a copy. And I'm thinking, who cares, right? I mean, how often do you
Totally
$40 in the whole?
Totally
But if you don't copy it, if you don't write stuff down, oh.
Yeah, a camera phone is a really good thing to bring too. You just got to remember, I was telling Amy the last time I was here, I took a lot of pictures of some records because I was in a hurry, and now I got to remember to download them, print them out, transcribe them, and enter that information. But a smartphone, a camera is a really great way to capture stones at a cemetery, documents if you're in a rush and can't wait in line for the copier.
Yeah, just make sure they allow it. Some courthouses
That's true.
and libraries won't allow you to do that. But yeah, you
Always
don't want to
ask
Being in a
permission.
hurry.
I'm sorry, Krista?
I was just going to say, speaking of being in a hurry, I know we've taken Amy and Julie away from their few hours of research.
I hear something. What do you hear, Julie?
I hear microphone.
I hear microfilm too. It's calling us. We should go.
All right. Well, we do not want to keep them from. They're gone.
I don't think we did.
Well, Krista and I would like to thank everyone for joining us today on Between the Leaves, and we'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Bye.
Bye, everyone.